Following an unexpected visit, a grieving parent chooses to install a camera to monitor their son's grave. Mary and Peter mourned the loss of their son, who tragically passed away in an accident. Despite their daily visits to his grave, they discovered that someone consistently preceded them, leaving a fresh rose each time. Captivated by this enigma, Peter resolved to deploy a camera to unveil the perpetrator. Upon witnessing the individual's identity, he was taken aback by the revelation. Video of the incident. Peter and Mary embarked on their journey back home, clutching the camera footage they had retrieved. Their emotions were a whirlwind of anticipation and apprehension as they pondered what revelations awaited them. Unbeknownst to them, the footage harbored a revelation that would leave them utterly astonished. What mysteries lay concealed within the footage? Reviewing the video. Electing to postpone viewing the video until the following day, Peter and Mary were fueled by a mixture of anticipation and caution. They aimed to ensure they approached the situation with careful consideration, eager to sidestep any potential pitfalls or misjudgments stemming from haste. Let the show begin. As they watched the screen flicker to life, Peter and Mary braced themselves for what lay ahead. With a simple click, they would uncover the enigmatic figure behind the red flowers adorning their son's gravesite. The identity of this mysterious visitor weighed heavily on their minds, prompting contemplation of whether to confront and seek elucidation. Dead son Mary and Peter, grieving parents of the late Michael, carried the burden of their son's premature demise. Losing him at the tender age of 18 in a tragic accident had left them shattered, grappling with the daunting task of navigating life without their beloved child. The prospect of outliving their offspring was a heart-wrenching reality they never envisaged. Unexpected death left with scant resources following their son's passing. Mary and Peter had exhausted their savings on his funeral arrangements. Despite the financial strain, they harbored no resentment, believing fervently in providing Michael with a dignified farewell. His untimely departure had caught them unawares, its reverberations profoundly affecting every facet of their existence. Memorial service. The memorial service proved to be an emotionally taxing affair, yet the presence of a multitude of supportive acquaintances and relatives offered solace to the grieving family. The sizable turnout underscored the profound impact Michael had on his community, a poignant reminder of the love and camaraderie he fostered during his brief time on Earth. Visits to the cemetery. Each day, they embarked on a pilgrimage to his gravesite, bearing floral tributes and keepsakes to honor his memory. This ritual not only became a fixture in their lives, but also served as a means to preserve a sense of his presence. Sharing intimate moments together, they found solace in recounting their daily experiences to their departed son, cherishing the connection it afforded them. However, their routine was unexpectedly disrupted when they stumbled upon a peculiar discovery. Object on headstone. During one of their visits on a Monday, Mary and Peter noticed an unexpected addition atop their son's grave. Mary remarked, "This wasn't here yesterday," prompting Peter to join in her confusion. The sight of the unfamiliar object resting on their son's headstone left both Mary and Peter perplexed, pondering the motive behind its placement. A red rose. Perched atop the headstone sat a solitary red rose, its presence shrouded in mystery. Despite scanning the surroundings, they found no one in the vicinity. This enigmatic gesture left them questioning. Who could have left the flower there? Their investigation led them to inspect neighboring graves for similar tokens. Yet, only Michael's final resting place bore the mysterious gift. The inexplicable occurrence left them feeling intrigued, yet unsettled. Mystery visitor. Initially dismissing it as a spontaneous act of kindness, they found themselves increasingly intrigued by the recurring phenomenon of wilting and blooming roses. Despite their efforts to unravel the mystery, their quest for answers proved fruitless. Ultimately, they resigned themselves to the notion that some mysteries are best left unsolved. Roses always present. Returning to the spot repeatedly, they discovered the rose persistently adorning the grave, a striking contrast against the lush greenery. Its consistent presence stirred their curiosity, leading to speculation about the enigmatic figure behind the gesture. Despite the mystery, they found solace in the daily sight of the rose, a comforting reminder amidst life's uncertainties. Who is leaving roses? As time passed, they grew fond of the rose's presence despite their inability to solve the puzzle. One day, Peter proposed a solution, installing cameras to monitor the area. Mary expressed reservations about privacy concerns, but Peter remained determined to unravel the mystery. Security camera purchase. Undeterred by his wife's concerns, Peter procured a security camera and set out to install it secretly. Guided by a small flashlight, he found the perfect vantage point to capture the gravesite. Satisfied with his work, Peter eagerly awaited the revelation, feeling a sense of anticipation. Camera installation. As the night descended, he found himself enveloped in darkness. His only guide, a faint beam from his pocket flashlight. Scouring the area, he sought out an ideal concealment for the camera, ensuring an unobstructed view of his son's resting place. Content with the arrangement, he eagerly monitored the camera feed, a swell of satisfaction washing over him. With the preparations complete, he settled in to await the impending revelation, brimming with anticipation. Setup complete. Returning home, Peter joined Mary in bed, who pretended to be asleep. Despite knowing about his nighttime excursion, she chose not to intervene, sharing his curiosity about the mysterious visitor. However, she kept her own suspicions hidden, allowing Peter to pursue his investigation without interference. Secrets. Over the ensuing 2 weeks, they made a daily pilgrimage to Michael's gravesite. Peter's demeanor hinted at something secretive as he covertly eyed the tomb, prompting Mary's curiosity. Although she observed his behavior, Mary opted to keep her observations to herself, indulging in her own private thoughts. Yet Peter's facade eventually faltered. Unexpected caller. As Peter and Mary readied themselves for their trip to the cemetery one Tuesday morning, they received an unexpected call from the cemetery's manager. The manager relayed news of a complaint regarding their camera, which had subsequently been seized. Upon scrutinizing the footage, it became apparent that the camera had been directed at Michael's grave, casting suspicion onto Peter and Mary. Cameras prohibited in cemetery. Under the cemetery's strict privacy guidelines, she was obligated to hand over the camera to the authorities since filming without authorization was forbidden. Yet, she decided to waive this rule for Peter and Mary, owing to their personal connection with her, keeping a duplicate of the footage exclusively for their sake. She opted not to reveal its contents to them. Retrieving the camera and footage, Mary and Peter were filled with anticipation upon learning that they could collect the tape by day's end. This news sparked excitement for the couple, who were keen to unveil the identity of the mysterious rose donor at their son's gravesite. Eagerly anticipating the revelation, they kept themselves occupied throughout the day before heading to the cemetery. What did he say? Several hours later, Mary and Peter arrived at the cemetery to retrieve the tape. The cemetery supervisor awaited them at Michael's tomb, offering them the USB stick. As she passed it to them, she uttered something softly that Mary and Peter couldn't fully grasp at that instant. Cryptic statements. Following a conversation about their personal lives and loved ones, the cemetery supervisor unexpectedly presented Peter and Mary with a USB stick before bidding them farewell. Bewildered by her enigmatic remark, they struggled to decipher its meaning in the moment. Nevertheless, they found themselves captivated by the mystery and looked forward to uncovering the USB stick's contents in the days ahead. What is the meaning of her message? Uncertain about the implications of the mysterious message from the cemetery supervisor, the couple hesitated to inspect the USB stick they had brought home. They worried that delving into its contents could potentially alter their memories of their son. Choosing to defer their curiosity, they decided to wait until morning to assess their emotions before proceeding further. Next steps. The following morning, the USB stick lay untouched on their kitchen table while they ate breakfast. Mary broke the silence, inquiring about their plan of action. "Does it warrant our attention?" she pondered aloud. Peter remained silent, his gaze fixed on the USB stick. Could this device hold the power to alter their lives indefinitely? Needing answers, Peter stood up and grasped the USB stick, conveying his longing for answers to Mary. She nodded in agreement, empathizing with his desire for resolution. Sensing Peter's shift in attitude, she suggested they view the footage together, presenting a united front. This proposal appeared to soothe Peter momentarily, yet their tranquility would soon be disrupted. Time for answers. Mary promptly rose from her seat and retrieved her laptop. Placing it on the kitchen table, she powered it on. With a final reassuring glance exchanged between Peter and Mary, they attempted to steel themselves for what lay ahead. However, they remained oblivious to the startling revelation that awaited them. Anticipation. Peter grasped the USB stick in one hand while tightly holding Mary's hand with the other, gently inserting the device into the laptop. Standing side by side, they observed intently as the screen flickered to life, signaling the arrival of a pop-up notification. With bated breath, they awaited the moment when they would finally unveil the identity of the individual behind the enigmatic gesture of leaving red flowers on their son's grave. All that remained was to press play and unravel the mystery. Uncertainty. As the time came to watch the recording, Peter's hand trembled with nerves. Both he and Mary took a collective deep breath, bracing themselves for whatever the footage might reveal. Slowly, Peter maneuvered the computer mouse towards the play button, ensuring Mary was mentally prepared for whatever awaited them. With the click of the button, the video began, and an atmosphere of anticipation permeated the room. USB error. Peter's anticipation to unveil the mystery behind the rose donor drove him to delve into the footage eagerly. Yet, his enthusiasm swiftly soured into exasperation upon encountering an error message when attempting to play the video. Despite his attempts with different devices and players, the footage stubbornly refused to cooperate, leaving him vexed and disappointed. Tech help. Determined to resolve the matter, Peter took a trip to an IT store seeking assistance. Describing the issue to the technician, he hoped for a quick solution. The technician made numerous attempts testing different USB cables and converting the video to alternate formats. However, despite their efforts, the problem remained unsolved. Acknowledging the challenge, the store manager suggested seeking specialized assistance to address the issue further. Expert wanted. Upon the recommendation of the store owner, Peter sought the expertise of a suggested video specialist to examine his USB. Following an inspection, the specialist confirmed the USB's functionality, but noted a potential issue with the camera. Perplexed by this revelation, Peter resolved to seek help from a camera repair shop to address the problem further. Camera issues. Peter brought the camera to a repair shop where a technician carefully inspected it. The technician determined that the camera had suffered damage, likely due to exposure to harsh weather conditions. With skillful hands, the technician managed to repair the camera, bringing relief to Peter. Excited to finally access the footage, Peter hastened back home. File corruption. Upon trying to replay the video, he found that the file had become corrupted, a frustrating setback that left him disheartened, as though all his previous efforts had been in vain. Despite his diligent attempts, the identity of the individual leaving roses on his son's grave remained elusive. Mary suggested that he try retrieving the file directly from the drive as a potential solution. Second opinion needed. Determined not to give up, Peter turned to another data recovery expert for assistance. Although this specialist managed to retrieve the file from the USB drive, it was only partially intact, abruptly ending after a few seconds. Despite the incomplete footage, Peter contemplated whether it held any significance. He opted to bring the drive, containing the truncated clip, back home to show Mary. A few hints. Even with the footage being incomplete, Peter was able to glean some details. He and Mary repeatedly viewed the video, striving to discern every conceivable detail within the frame. They meticulously examined the footage, combing through it for any peculiarities, and thought they detected something intriguing. A new actor. Unfortunately, the video failed to unveil anything out of the ordinary. Mary and Peter noted that the camera had an unobstructed view of the grave, yet there was no sign of anyone present. After closely examining the footage for more than 5 minutes, they started to question whether they had made a mistake. However, their doubts vanished when they noticed movement at the edge of the screen. Who is the rose bearer? A figure dressed entirely in black stealthily approached the grave of their son. The visitor's identity remained shrouded in secrecy, save for the vivid red rose they held. Without saying a word, they delicately laid the flower on the grave before swiftly vanishing, keeping their face hidden. Their mysterious appearance left observers pondering the true character of the individual. Putting the pieces together. Mary and Peter watched the footage repeatedly, hoping to reveal any hidden clues. Mary suggested that the figure in the video might be a woman, although their face was concealed by large sunglasses. Despite this hindrance, there was a hint of familiarity, hinting that The visitor might be someone they knew. The mysterious woman. The woman stood tall with a medium physique, dressed entirely in black attire, topped with a headscarf. Yet hints of long, wavy blonde hair escaped from beneath the fabric. Her ensemble included high heels and a stylish charcoal purse. Gripped in one hand was a handkerchief, while dark sunglasses concealed her eyes. Despite her efforts to disguise herself, there was an air of familiarity about her. Identity revealed? Eventually, they pieced together the familiarity of the woman. She was someone they knew quite well. Mary pondered over how she came to be there, but neither of them could offer an explanation. Realizing the need to delve into the reason behind her presence at the graveyard, they resolved to investigate further. 10 years, more than a decade, had passed since Mary and Peter's last encounter with the woman. They found themselves repeatedly reviewing the film, yearning for any indication from her. Mary confessed that she couldn't find peace until they had direct communication with the woman. It was clear that an unusual event was unfolding, but a significant flaw in their strategy emerged. Getting in touch. Separated from the woman for an extended period, Peter and Mary lacked any contact information to reach her. Without friends to aid them, they opted to linger at the cemetery, anticipating an accidental meeting. While this plan appeared improbable, its outcome proved remarkably unexpected. Confronting the woman, Mary expressed apprehension about the scenario. It had been a considerable duration since their last interaction with the woman, leaving Mary uncertain about broaching the subject of the daily roses. Despite her curiosity, she wavered. Peter provided solace and offered words that profoundly shifted her outlook. Wisdom. Mary, my dear, this may be a difficult conversation, but it's important to understand why she is behaving this way. Forgiveness is key, and despite any past conflicts between us, we can move past them. Mary gazed at Peter, acknowledging his wisdom. She embraced him before they retired for the night, knowing that tomorrow would bring the challenging confrontation they had been preparing for. New start. Peter and Mary woke up at dawn to head to the cemetery, uncertain of the woman's timetable. They worried about missing her if they were tardy. Upon arriving at the graveyard, they discovered someone already present, anticipating their arrival. Curiosity. Arriving at the cemetery, Peter and Mary noticed that the supervisor had already visited their son's grave. She inquired if they had viewed the video. Mary and Peter sensed her interest in their discoveries, yet they were absorbed in their own concerns. Supervisor conflicts. Mary and Peter had faced numerous disagreements with the cemetery supervisor previously. She had repeatedly asked them to relocate their vehicle from designated spots and had directed them to depart when the cemetery's hours ended. This had caused Mary and Peter to harbor ill feelings toward the supervisor. Previous encounters. During their school years, Mary and Peter initially encountered this woman who happened to be a grade ahead of them. Initially, she seemed sharp-tongued, which led the couple to perceive her as bitter and devoid of compassion. However, as time passed and they interacted more frequently, their perception of her evolved. Despite their initial clashes, there were instances where she demonstrated warmth and benevolence towards them. Compassion. Mary and Peter acknowledged that Mary often found herself in the position of enforcing rules she didn't establish. An example of this arose when they were requested to depart the closing graveyard. Although they appealed for additional time, Mary empathized with their wish to linger longer and pledged to come back in 30 minutes. Perhaps in a compassionate gesture, she could explore avenues to help them extend their visit too. Asking the supervisor for information. Mary and Peter inquired with the supervisor regarding the woman, yet the supervisor possessed scant details, merely acknowledging her frequent visits. Assuming that Mary and Peter, having installed a camera, were also in the dark about the woman's identity, the supervisor was taken aback by their reaction to her revelation. Irritating presence. The supervisor was surprised to learn from Peter that they were acquainted with the woman and merely sought a conversation to comprehend her motive for visiting Michael's cemetery. This revelation added layers of complexity to the situation, diverging from the supervisor's initial assumptions. Peter's visible irritation at the woman's presence prompted the supervisor to ponder the underlying reasons behind his frustration. Supervisor questions. The supervisor wondered why the couple hadn't opted for direct communication with the woman if they needed to convey a message. However, she refrained from probing further into their personal affairs, mindful of respecting their privacy. Despite initially leaning towards leaving them to their own devices, the supervisor ultimately decided to adopt a different approach and interact with the couple. Supervisor spying. The supervisor feigned a return to her office, but swiftly maneuvered behind a nearby tree, driven by curiosity and a growing interest in the mysterious visitor at the tomb. With a sense of urgency, she understood the need to take prompt action. Familiar car. From her concealed vantage point behind a tree, the supervisor observed a familiar car pulling into the parking lot. It was a vehicle she had spotted on numerous occasions, unmistakably belonging to the woman who frequented Michael's resting place. A surge of anticipation coursed through her veins as she understood that the moment of truth was imminent. Identifying the woman. Unaware of any surveillance, Peter and Mary settled in and patiently waited. Their attention was drawn to a vehicle pulling into the parking area, yet they remained indifferent until a woman stepped out of it. Even at a distance, they recognized her unmistakable figure. It had to be her. Single red rose. Holding onto a solitary red rose, the woman proceeded towards the grave with a deliberate pace, reminiscent of the footage they had viewed. Her demeanor suggested familiarity as she moved gracefully, almost as though she were following a well-worn path. Yet, upon raising her head, she abruptly halted, her expression freezing in an instant. The showdown. In a fleeting instant, they remained motionless, exchanging silent glances. The supervisor, observing from a distance, remained unsure of the impending interaction. Would it escalate into a confrontation, a heated debate, or even vocal disagreement? As she continued to watch intently, she contemplated the potential threat they might pose to each other. Rose is revealed. Stepping forth with courage, Mary's tearful expression caught the attention of the observer, stirring a sense of wonder. Addressing her as Noah, he acknowledged her presence. The supervisor found himself spellbound by Peter's gestures and the woman's heartfelt reaction, unable to avert his gaze. "Embrace Peter," approached Noah, reaching out with open arms, a silent invitation to embrace. Noah paused briefly, weighing her options before yielding to the embrace. As their hug lingered, it felt as though the weight of tension and unease had lifted, leaving behind a sense of peace and connection. Supervisor guilt. The supervisor, grappling with a sense of intrusion, opted to leave her covert position behind the tree and approach the group. Drawing nearer, she observed tears streaming down their faces as they embraced one another tightly. Supervisor interest. The supervisor felt a need to engage Mary and Peter further to delve into the mystery surrounding the visitor to Michael's cemetery. Mary and Peter found themselves puzzled by the supervisor's persistence and her sudden interest in their family matters. Their surprise only deepened when she broached yet another unexpected inquiry. Who is Noah? Inquiring about Noah's identity and the necessity for secrecy, the supervisor's question struck Mary and Peter as impolite. Nonetheless, Noah remained unaffected by the inquiry. Given the supervisor's familiarity with Noah's frequent visits, her nonchalance didn't come as a shock. However, the response offered turned out to be unexpectedly revealing. The daughter surprising everyone, Noah disclosed her true identity as Mary and Peter's daughter. The boss, previously under the impression that she was merely a friend or perhaps a former romantic partner, found himself startled. The supervisor, upon learning of Mary and Peter's involvement in monitoring the tomb, became even more perplexed. Run away. During her teenage years, Noah embarked on a journey of self-discovery, distancing herself from her family and venturing into an uncertain future. She refrained from contacting her parents, choosing instead to visit Michael's grave in solitude. However, with their unexpected reunion, Noah felt compelled to confess something significant to her parents. Reconnecting. Upon learning of Michael's demise, Noah conveyed to her parents her eagerness to re-establish connections and extend her assistance. Yet, during the funeral proceedings, she observed her parents' inability to immediately identify her, sparking doubts regarding the passage of time and the strength of their desire for reconciliation. Noah grappled with uncertainty about whether her parents genuinely wished for her return and inclusion in the family fold. Going home. Peter and Mary rejoiced at the return of Noah to their lives. They had longed for her presence and were determined to mend any past grievances. They vowed to maintain their unity and uphold Michael's legacy as a family for the foreseeable future.